3 people were beaten and stabbed to death in a living room, while 3 children slept unharmed 10 feet away. The killers never opened their door. It was the morning of April 12, 1981, in Keddie, California, a fading railroad town of fewer than 100 people, tucked into the Sierra Nevada mountains. 14-year-old Sheila Sharp had spent the night at a neighbor's cabin next door. She walked home just after 7 a.m., pushed open the front door of cabin 28, and stepped into a scene so violent that investigators would later say the knife used had been bent nearly in half from the force of the blows. Her mother, her brother, his best friend, all dead, and her 12-year-old sister Tina was simply gone. No body, no note, no trace. But here's the detail that still keeps investigators awake at night. The police may have known who did this within days, and for over 40 years, no one has ever been charged. What happened inside cabin 28 that night is worse than you think, and the reason it was never solved might be worse than the crime itself. To understand that night, you need to understand Keddie. By 1981, the once bustling railroad resort had decayed into a cluster of cheap rental cabins, a place where people landed when they had nowhere else to go. Glenna Sue Sharp, 36 years old, had moved there from Connecticut with her 5 children, escaping a troubled marriage. She was quiet, devoutly religious, and fiercely protective of her kids. On the evening of Saturday, April 11th, the household split up in a way that would decide who lived and who died. Sheila, 14, went next door to cabin 27 for a sleepover. Sue's oldest son, John, 15, hitchhiked into the nearby town of Quincy with his best friend, 17-year-old Dana Wingate. They'd return to cabin 28 later that night. Inside the cabin, Sue stayed home with 12-year-old Tina, her 2 youngest boys, Rick and Greg, and a neighbor boy who was sleeping over, 12-year-old Justin. Remember Justin? Remember exactly whose son he was, because that single detail is where this entire case begins to unravel. And it's the reason many people believe the killer's name has been known all along. What Sheila found the next morning defies explanation. Sue, John, and Dana lay in the living room, bound with medical tape and electrical cord ripped from household appliances. They had been bludgeoned with a claw hammer and stabbed repeatedly. John and Dana, likely attacked as they walked in the door, ambushed. The violence was so extreme that a steak knife recovered at the scene had been bent at a sharp angle. This wasn't a robbery. Nothing of value was taken. And now the impossible part. The back bedroom door, 10 feet from the bodies, was never opened. Rick, Greg, and Justin slept through a prolonged, savage triple murder and woke up unharmed. 3 boys left alive as witnesses, in a cabin with paper-thin walls. Why? Killers don't leave witnesses out of carelessness. They leave them out of familiarity. And Tina, Sue's 12-year-old daughter, had vanished into the night. For 3 years, her family would have no idea if she was alive or dead. Then, in 1984, a phone rang at the Butte County Sheriff's Office, and the anonymous voice on the other end knew something only the killer could know. In April 1984, almost 3 years to the day after the murders, a bottle collector found part of a human skull near Camp 18, a remote spot 50 miles from Keddie. Dental records confirmed it. Tina Sharp. Someone had driven her far into the mountains and left her there. Then came the phone call. An anonymous man contacted authorities describing the location of Tina's remains, details that hadn't been made public. The call was recorded. And here is where the Keddie case turns from tragedy into something darker. That tape was mislabeled, buried in evidence, and effectively lost for decades. When investigators finally recovered it years later, some believed they recognized the voice. Now go back to that night. 2 men had been inside cabin 28 during the evening of April 11th. Marty Smart Justin's stepfather, who lived 2 cabins away, and his friend, a recently arrived ex-con calling himself Bo Bubaid. Both were interviewed, both were released. And within days, Marty Smart left town. But before he did, he told police something almost unbelievable. A hammer was missing from his home. His hammer. Hold on to that. Because 35 years later, someone would find it. Marty Smart had motive dripping off of him. His marriage was collapsing, his wife Marilyn had left the house that very night, and Marty reportedly blamed Sue Sharp for encouraging her to leave. He was a Vietnam veteran with a documented temper, and Bo Bubaid was a Chicago ex-convict with alleged organized crime ties who'd known Marty for barely 2 weeks. Then there's Justin, Marty's own stepson, asleep in cabin 28 that night. In the days after the murders, Justin described the crime scene to investigators with chilling accuracy. 2 men, an argument with Sue, the sudden violence. He first claimed it was a dream. Under hypnosis, the dream sharpened into something that sounded exactly like a memory. 2 men whose descriptions matched Marty and Bo. Yet the investigation went nowhere. Files sat untouched, and Marty Smart lived free until his death in 2000. Bo died in 1988. Case closed by time itself, right? Not quite. Because after Marty left Keddie, he wrote a letter to his estranged wife. And decades later, when investigators finally read it, one sentence stopped them cold. The letter read, "I've paid the price of your love, and now that I've bought it with 4 people's lives, you tell me we are through." 4 people's lives. Sue, John, Dana, Tina. Written by Marty Smart, in his own hand, weeks after the murders. And it gets worse. Years later, a therapist who treated Marty shortly after the killings came forward and told investigators that Marty had confessed to him, admitting he killed Sue Sharp and Tina because Tina had witnessed it. The therapist reported it. Nothing happened. Then, in 2013, Plumas County finally reopened the case. Special investigator Mike Gamberg, who had personal ties to Keddie, dug into the original files and found a catastrophe. Mishandled evidence, ignored witnesses, and troubling suggestions that Marty may have had a friendly relationship with local law enforcement. And in 2016, the case detonated. Acting on a tip, investigators searched a pond near Keddie and pulled out a hammer. A hammer consistent with the murder weapon, consistent with the one Marty Smart reported missing from his own home days after the massacre. It had been sitting in that water for 35 years, waiting. So why has no one ever been charged? Marty Smart died in 2000. Bo Bubaid died in 1988. The 2 prime suspects escaped justice not because the evidence was weak, but because, for decades, no one followed it. A recorded confession-adjacent letter, a therapist's report, a stepson's eyewitness account, a missing hammer found in a pond, and a lost tape of a caller who knew where Tina's body was. In 2016, investigators confirmed that new DNA evidence was being tested, and the case remains officially open to this day. But the darkest question isn't who killed the Sharp family. It's why 3 boys were left alive, spared by killers who knew them, maybe even loved one of them. Sheila Sharp, who opened that door in 1981, is still alive. She's still waiting for the word solved. Cabin 28 itself was demolished in 2004, as if tearing down the walls could erase what happened inside them. It couldn't. So, do you believe Marty Smart and Bo Bubaid slaughtered a family over a broken marriage? Or is there a darker reason this case was buried? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more cases like this, you know what to do. If you thought this was unsettling, wait until you hear what happened just 3 years later in almost the exact same circumstances. That video is waiting for you right now. Subscribe and hit that bell. A new mystery drops every single day.